Good afternoon, Bermuda. This afternoon, I will provide an overview of the Ministry of Education's Throne Speech priorities and areas of focus. This year's Throne Speech theme, Building Bermuda, with Bermudians at heart, communicates the basis and foundation for all of government's legislative priorities for this session of the House of Assembly. At the heart of rebuilding Bermuda is public education. This government acknowledges that Bermuda's young people must feel the investment of their homeland in their success. As detailed in the Throne Speech, this legislative year, we will continue with education reform with legislative changes required to advance the phasing out of middle schools and the introduction of a two-tier system with primary and signature schools. The system will also benefit from reformed governance and greater accountability with the creation of an authority to lead all aspects of performance management in public education. Bermuda, education reform is underway. Teams from the Ministry of Education, the Department of Education, the Board of Education, Bermuda First, teachers, students, and members of our community are working together to transform public education to meet the educational and vocational needs of our students. Already, under the umbrella of education reform, the following will be our priority for this upcoming legislative session. These are: 1, school buildings realignment consultation process, which is led by members of the Ministry of Education with input from the Learning First program and Innovation Unit. The realignment of our schools is necessary to remove the middle school system and create a two-tier system of primary and signature schools, which will include a signature school for students with exceptionalities and one for alternative education to support students' behavioral and mental health needs. Consultation with the general public will begin later this month to start the discussion around the structural realignment necessary for the reforming of Bermuda's public school system. 2, the Learning First program, led by the governance team, innovation unit, and the school redesign teams. Their focus will be on the internal structure and the learning environment. Learning First is our recently launched program to collaboratively design and improve school system with a focus on varied types of learning experiences. The redesign teams will start the research aspect later this month by interviewing first students, teachers, and principals or school leaders to obtain critical data about their experiences in the public school education system. They will be collecting data around what is working well, challenges encountered, improvements needed for the system, parental engagement, and community and business engagement. 3, the governance structure and accountability team. This is led by the Board of Education with input from Bermuda First and Innovation Unit. Their focus is creating an education authority for overseeing public education to lead all aspects of performance management in public education. The work has started. Education reform is taking place and is moving along. We are transforming education to provide a public school system that produces students equipped for vocational, academic, or business careers of their choosing. These next phases will involve the necessary collaboration to ensure voices of our stakeholders are part of the foundation of education reform. We intend to keep the guiding principles of transparency, inclusivity, and engagement to redesign the public school system to produce a system the Bermudian public deserves. I invite any and everyone who is impacted in any form by the public education system to consider and share their views on the proposals for a transformed public education when launched later this month. There's a lot of work to be done. We will continue to make the improvements and changes necessary to bring about education reform and what is best and required to every day build a better, fairer, and stronger education system for our children and for Bermuda's future. I'll now pass the press conference over to my cabinet colleague, Minister Wayne Furbert, Minister for Cabinet Office.
Thank you, Minister. Good afternoon to all the members of the media and, of course, the general public. I thank you for your attendance and attention this afternoon. This afternoon, as the Minister for the Cabinet Office, I intend to highlight efforts to support the government's aim for economic development and diversification. I will also share what the ministry is doing to achieve the initiatives mentioned in the throne speech. Today, I wish to speak on 4 specific topics that pertain to the economy and diversification. They are vertical farming, shoreside fishing facility, ecosystem for technology companies, intellectual property. This government's aim is to boost local food production, to provide reliable, sustainable, and resilient leafy greens at scale for the Bermudan public people all year round. For the past year, the government, through the Business Development Unit, has been working with Arrow Farms to design and implement a vertical farming facility in Bermuda. Vertical farming will utilize the latest technology to grow leafy greens in a controlled environment. The aim of this venture is to reduce the cost of food to the general public, reduce the reliance on imported leafy greens, and boost employment in Bermuda. The ministry is currently finalizing the plans for the development and financing of the proposed built facility and will have the capacity to produce the equivalent of 200 acres of conventional farmland. The plans will be presented to Cabinet Committee for Economic Development on Monday coming November the 16th. A key component of this project, and in keeping in line with the government's vision to create a nation of owners, will be allow Bermudians to invest in this entity so that they can enjoy the benefits of ownership of local food production. The project has the potential of supplying about 30% of Bermuda's year-round demand for leafy greens. The project is environmentally sound, using 95% less water than conventional production and using 0 pesticides, therefore eliminating harmful runoff. We expect to see the creation of at least 30 long-term job posts. Construction. Other benefits to the wider community are as follows: partnership with schools, providing a STEM-based curriculum and promoting healthy eating in the school system, year-round availability, consistent pricing, longer shelf life. As is rarely evident, this vertical farm initiative will be a boon for Bermuda in many years, and look forward to providing further updates next month. Shoreside fishing facility. The government will be working with the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation and the fishing industry to build a shoreside fishing facility. The shoreside fishing complex will be the operational center and headquarters of a new, long-anticipated enterprise that will transform and reposition Bermuda's commercial fisheries sector. This exciting project is funded in the current budget to the tune of $370,000. Overall, we will be putting together $1.5 million, and the other portion will be put in 2021-22 budget. We are acting on the recommendations for this initiative, which have been on the table for over 12 years. This fits into our vision to develop Bermuda's economy to advance long-stalled initiatives that are vital for Bermuda's long-term economic development. This facility is just the start of our ambitious, and while targeted towards local consumption, it has the potential to grow into international exports. It's principally fishing vessels that target large pelagic species such as big-eyed tuna and swordfish will be supported by infrastructure that is capable of meeting the standards of product handling for export to the United States and Europe. It will be a purpose-built facility where fish will be cleaned and processed for sale to the Bermuda market. The objective is to create a facility backed by individuals and groups who wish to see fisheries as a viable industry sector move beyond the limiting aspect of historical routes, position it to take advantage of the wider span of natural resources, provide high-quality product to the consumers in Bermuda and abroad, and protect our resources for future generations. We are making significant progress in realizing the vision of having a shoreside fishing facility, and will intensify our effort to achieve this venture. My third point is ecosystem for technology companies. Bermuda is well regarded as one of the best places to build business due to our time zone, close proximity to our jurisdiction, quality of life, and financial structures. We have recently been engaged in a very fruitful discussion with global tech companies about relocating to Bermuda to set up their businesses here. In talking with the principals of these companies, who are the ultimate decision makers, they have informed us that Bermuda is very attractive as a favorable place to do business due to our quality of life, lack of crime, and an excellent handling of COVID-19 crisis. We are seeking to establish an ecosystem that technology companies can base their operations in Bermuda. We have already begun to look at ways to reform our laws and policies in order to remove bureaucracy and red tape that would normally impede the establishment of companies in Bermuda. Our aim is to create a hub wherein technology companies can set up and conduct their businesses right here in Bermuda in a business-friendly environment. I hasten to point out that our expert handling of the COVID-19 pandemic has provided a strong incentive for technology companies to locate in Bermuda. This, along with our negotiations with various entities overseas, will create the atmosphere and environment in which tech-related business can flourish. A very positive sign so far is the arrival of 58 people from Pakistan who will be residing and working in Bermuda for the next year. They are part of a very large and successful technology company, and it's our hope that this will be the genesis of their setting up a business long-term in Bermuda and training and hiring Bermudians. Of course, this increased business activity will generate further economic growth through additional persons living, working, and playing in Bermuda. My fourth point is on intellectual property. Intellectual property is an industry where Bermuda is well placed to grow Bermuda's existing footprint in this space. To achieve maximum economic benefit from this field, we plan to upgrade our existing legal framework to increase business in Bermuda for those international companies who wish to register their trademarks and copyrights in Bermuda while complying with our economic substance laws. We have adopted a phased approach to overhauling our intellectual property legislation, and by the spring of 2021, we shall have achieved significant enhancements on this realm. These phases for the different segments of our intellectual property regime and legislation are as follows. Phase 1, patents. Phase 2, designs. Phase 3, copyrights. Phase 4, trademarks. Additionally, we are setting up an enhanced structure that will protect the rights of local entrepreneurs, while at the same time offering a robust framework for international companies to register trademarks, patents, and copyrights here in Bermuda. To achieve this in the coming month, we shall be putting before Parliament legislation that will update our laws as they pertain to the 4 areas I already mentioned: patent, designs, copyrights, and trademark. These are just a few of the major initiatives the Cabinet Ministry is forging ahead with in the next year or so. I'm very optimistic that we shall succeed in generating positive economic activity as a result. We have other projects that we are working on, and we'll lay them out over the coming months before yourselves and the public. Thank you for your time and your attention.
Okay, thank you, ministers. Members of the media, if you have any questions for any of the ministers, may I please ask you to come to the microphone, please, and thank you. Gray, do you want to start us off? Gray from Bermuda Broadcasting.
Good afternoon, ministers. How are you today?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon. This is for Minister Rabain.
Yes.
Starting off, a few questions for you. The first one, as far as overhauling the school system, have you done any cost analysis as of yet? And if so, what are the savings and what is the cost to overhaul the school system?
Initially, when we started this process, and we're now clearly about 2 years in, there was cost analysis done at that point on what it would look like with various savings. But however, until we have the appropriate consultation with the public and actually talk with them about what a reformed or realigned system will look like and what the effects it will have on them, at that point, those bits and pieces of information will be released.
Thank you. Second question, have you looked at any other school systems around the world for inspiration? And if so, which ones have you looked at?
What we've done is we've looked at the Bermudian system, and the idea of our reform is to design a system that is what Bermuda has asked for and what what Bermudians have detailed they want using our strategic plan, Plan 2022. Of course, we have looked at systems around the world, but we're not looking to fashion Bermuda system after any particular system. We're looking to take the best bits and pieces that we see and create a system that is built for Bermudians by Bermudians.
Will teachers more than likely have to retrain? And also, as far as creating the curriculum, will you be taking input from the international business community as well?
As I pointed out, the system design teams will be starting that collaborative part of it, and that is talking to not only just our teachers, our students, our parents, but also talking to business partners, as I mentioned, as well as community partners, as I mentioned. And we have also made this very clear that part of our reform has to involve training of teachers and giving them the necessary resources to be successful in the new system as well. So teachers will be part of not only the collaboration of what needs to be done, but also the collaboration of what it is what tools they will need in order to be successful.
Thank you, Mr. Rabain.
Sure.
And Mr. Furbert, quick question for you. As far as the red tape that you mentioned, that might be a hindrance to getting international businesses to come here, what red tape are you referring to, or some of the things?
Well, we always find processes within government itself that just slows up the process. It's just by nature. When I was the chairman of the Efficiency Committee, we found many things that can be sped up. You may be aware that the Premier appointed myself to be in charge of land license at the last, probably about 2 months ago. I can tell you right now, it took probably 6 to 8 months to get things done. We have turned that around in 30 days now. So this is the red tape I'm talking about. It's just looking at what is feasible, what makes sense, and by protecting the public and making sure that things are in place. We are excited by what's happening. I mean, I can tell you right now that I have a meeting at 2:00, a virtual meeting, of some things that we haven't even talked about in this here. So once we get this thing going, I'll be glad to come back forward and tell you some other things which we're doing. You're welcome.
Garrick, do you have any questions at all for any of the ministers today? No? Right. Ministers, thank you very much. That concludes today's press briefing on the 2020 throne speech. Thank you for joining us.